We've all been told that stress is bad for your health, and it's true. But here's the thing. Stress management doesn't fix the chemical chaos that happens inside your body as a result. And if that stress cycle doesn't stop, if you get stuck in fight or flight mode, the fatigue, the anxiety, and the weight gain are only going to get worse. So, how can you actually lower your runaway stress hormones, especially cortisol? Let me show you 5 fast, functional strategies to do just that. Hi there, my name is Dr. Kate, and I help people get to the root cause of their chronic health problems when they get stuck or run out of options. And I've seen firsthand how high cortisol can sabotage even the best, most targeted health efforts. So today we're getting clinical and practical. But before we get to my top 5 strategies for lowering cortisol quickly, we have to understand the friend versus enemy dynamic of cortisol. Here's what's actually happening inside your body. Despite what you may have heard, cortisol, your chronic stress hormone, is not always the enemy. When your body produces it at the right times and in the right amounts, it's actually your best friend. Cortisol is what activates your immune system when you get sick. It plays a critical role in keeping your daily sleep-wake cycle on track. It even helps calm inflammation in the short term. The trouble starts when cortisol stays too high for too long. Chronically elevated cortisol raises your blood glucose and keeps you locked in fat storage mode instead of fat loss mode. It interferes with your thyroid hormones, triggers problems with how you detox estrogen, and eventually makes a total mess of your immune system and your metabolism. If you feel like you're struggling with anxiety, depression, chronic pain, heart palpitations, weight gain, or that dreaded brain fog, high cortisol might be the hidden driver. And because we live in a world with so much unavoidable stress, this is incredibly common. But here's the kicker. Even if you aren't feeling mentally or emotionally stressed, physical stressors like gut dysfunction, autoimmunity, or blood sugar imbalances can trigger this same response. Your body's stress system, the HPA axis, treats all stress the same. Now, how can you actually tell if your levels are too high? You might have seen people on social media talking about cortisol face or belly fat as dead giveaways, but it's actually much trickier than that. Those exact same symptoms can be caused by cortisol levels that are too low. To make it even more confusing, you can have high free cortisol, but low total cortisol. This is why guessing is a bad idea. If you've been trying to lower your cortisol for a while and you aren't seeing results, it is time to stop guessing and start testing. I'm going to show you 5 ways to lower cortisol today, but if you want real measurable data, I've put a link in the description to the at-home cortisol testing kits that I recommend for my clients. I'll even help you interpret those results so you have a clear roadmap. So, how do we bring those cortisol levels back down to a friendly range? Let's get into my top 5 science-based functional medicine strategies. Strategy number 1 is all about how you eat. Specifically, you need to prioritize protein, healthy fats, and fiber at every meal. Here's why. Cortisol is released every time your blood sugar spikes or crashes. If you eat a meal that is high in processed carbs or sugar, your blood sugar levels go on a roller coaster ride. When they crash, your stress response system, also known as the HPA axis, sees that as an emergency and triggers a burst of cortisol to bring the levels back up. Think of protein, fats, and fiber as extended release nutrition. They slow down the absorption of your fuel, which levels out those spikes and crashes. This means less demand for insulin and much less demand for cortisol. This is especially life-changing if you struggle with the 3 a.m. wake-up. You know the feeling. You're wide awake for no reason in the middle of the night, and your mind starts racing. That often happens because your blood sugar crashed while you were asleep, and your body used cortisol to wake you up and rescue you. By eating a balanced dinner with plenty of fiber and healthy fat, or even a small bedtime snack, like an apple with nut butter, you can even out those levels and finally sleep through the night. Strategy number 2 is likely the one you don't want to hear, but it might be the most important. To lower cortisol, you have to reduce your caffeine intake. I know, when you're exhausted and your cortisol is poorly balanced, coffee can feel like the only way to survive the day. But caffeine directly signals your adrenal glands to produce more cortisol and adrenaline. This creates a vicious cycle. You're tired because your cortisol is a mess, so you drink caffeine, which messes up your cortisol even more, which makes you even more tired tomorrow. By reducing your caffeine intake or even cutting it out for a few weeks, you give your HPA axis a chance to reset. You'll find that your energy becomes more stable and your sleep quality improves significantly. If quitting cold turkey sounds impossible, try weaning yourself. Mix your regular coffee with decaf for a few weeks. Or switch to green tea. It still has a little caffeine, but it also contains anti-inflammatory compounds that actively help lower cortisol. There are also great alternatives like dandelion root coffee or adaptogenic mushroom drinks. I've actually listed my favorite high-quality caffeine alternatives in the free cortisol-lowering checklist that I made for you. I'll put the link in the description so you can check that out. Strategy number 3 is a simple but powerful supplement, high-quality fish oil. Omega-3 fatty acids are integral to every single cell in your body. Research has shown that fish oil can lower cortisol, reduce systemic inflammation, and support your happy hormones like serotonin. In a 2021 study, researchers found that taking just 1.25 grams of supplemental omega-3 daily for 4 months significantly reduced cortisol levels during times of stress. It even helped with something called telomerase activity, which is linked to how your cells age and repair themselves. The problem is that it is very difficult to get enough omega-3s from your diet alone, unless you're eating fatty fish like sardines or wild-caught salmon 5 times a week. And you have to be careful with sourcing, because heavy metals like mercury love to hide in fish fat. This is one area where the quality of your supplement really matters. I've put my favorite clinical-grade fish oil brands in that supplement checklist for you as well. Strategy number 4 is a bit more biohacky, but it is incredibly effective. Toning your vagus nerve. The vagus nerve, also known as cranial nerve 10, is the information superhighway between your brain and your organs. It acts like a thermostat for your body. It controls digestion, immune function, and most importantly, your stress response. If you have poor vagal tone, your body stays stuck in a fight or flight state. That means you are constantly cranking out cortisol. This is especially important for anyone struggling with weight gain because your vagus nerve is a critical part of the GLP-1 signaling pathway. GLP-1 is a compound made in your gut that tells your brain when you're full. You've probably heard of medications like Ozempic that mimic this, but your body does this naturally. However, if your vagus nerve isn't functioning well, that I'm full signal never reaches your brain, no matter how much GLP-1 you make. This leads to constant cravings and weight loss resistance. You can tone your vagus nerve with simple daily habits: diaphragmatic breathing, humming, singing, or even gargling water. It sounds strange, but these physical actions stimulate the nerve and tell your nervous system that it is safe to turn off the cortisol. I actually have an entire video dedicated to the vagus nerve that I'll link for you at the end of this one. Finally, strategy number 5 is take advantage of adaptogenic herbs. I call these very special plant-based compounds Goldilocks herbs because they help bring your cortisol levels to a place that is just right. Whether your cortisol is too high or too low, adaptogens help normalize the system. My 3 favorites are ashwagandha, holy basil, and bacopa. Ashwagandha is the heavy hitter for lowering anxiety and boosting brain function during stress. Holy basil is fantastic for stabilizing high blood sugar levels, which, as we discussed earlier, is a huge trigger for cortisol. Bacopa is a powerful antioxidant that protects your brain cells from the damage that chronic stress causes. And of course, it helps lower cortisol. I love working with adaptogens because they're very safe, but they can be tricky to get right. The concentration and the part of the plant that's used matter immensely. If you've tried these before and didn't feel like they help, it's likely because the quality of the product wasn't up to the task. But no worries, you'll find my vetted brands that actually contain the real adaptogenic ingredients, the same ones I've used for 15 plus years, in that free checklist. The symptoms of high cortisol can be anywhere from annoying to downright scary. But as we've covered today, there are proven functional steps you can take to reclaim your health. If you're ready to stop guessing and start taking action, I've put all 5 of these strategies into that free cortisol lowering checklist. You can grab your copy at the link in the description below. And if you're ready to see exactly how your cortisol levels are trending, I've also included the link to order your at-home test kit right next to it. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. The one about supporting your vagus nerve function so you can lose some extra body fat. I'll see you there.